Have you ever had the feeling that someone is watching you? Like every step you take, someone is following, analyzing you, waiting for the right moment to act? The thought of being stalked might seem like something out of a movie, but the reality is much worse. This happens every day. The terror of knowing someone is watching you without your knowledge. The growing fear when you realize that no matter where you go, they are always there. The whispers in the night, the endless phone calls, the gifts left at your door. Stalking is a real-life nightmare, and many victims spend years running from a shadow that never disappears. Today you will hear 3 disturbing true stories of people who faced obsessive stalkers, from romantic dates that turned into nightmares to terrifying home invasions. Each story is a chilling reminder of how fragile our sense of safety really is. And the worst part? Anyone could be the next victim. If you think stalkers are just characters in thriller movies, get ready to change your mind. After these stories, you will never look over your shoulder the same way again. Fate turns dangerous. At first, Hunter seemed like the perfect guy. Attentive, charming, always knowing exactly what to say. But there was something strange about his gaze, an obsessive gleam that made her skin crawl. Fear started creeping in slowly, like a silent warning. Small gestures began feeling uncomfortable. Too many messages, intrusive questions, a control that tightened with every date. What once felt like affection started morphing into a silent terror. By the 4th date, she knew something was wrong. The calls increased. The texts came non-stop. If she took too long to respond, Hunter would show up at places she went, always with a smile that hid something much darker. The suspense built up inside her, like she was trapped in a game she never agreed to play. But when he appeared at her doorstep late at night, the real horror began. First, it was the strange gifts left on her porch. Wilted flowers, letters filled with incoherent words, small personal belongings she hadn't even noticed were missing. Then came the noises outside her window at night, shadows shifting just beyond her vision. Fear became something solid when she found footprints in the snow outside her house, pacing back and forth. She cut off all contact, but that only made things worse. The phone rang non-stop, desperate messages mixed with veiled threats. Then, one silent night, a sound made her blood run cold. The door handle slowly turning. He was trying to get inside. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she locked herself in the bathroom, gripping her phone with trembling hands, praying the police would arrive in time. By the time sirens shattered the night, Hunter had already disappeared. But the terror didn't leave with him. He was still out there, somewhere, waiting. And she knew, deep inside, that this wasn't over. Not yet. Elementary school horror. She was only 12 when fear became part of her routine. At first, it was just an annoyance, a boy at school who stared at her too long, who always seemed to be nearby. But over time, it became clear that this wasn't just a coincidence. He knew where she lived. He knew her schedule. The suspense grew stronger each day, turning small interactions into moments of pure terror. Then came the notes, handwritten and stuffed into her locker, short, strange messages. "I see you. We're friends, right?" Then the photos. Pictures of her taken without her knowing, snapshots of her day captured by someone who was always watching. The fear spread through her like a slow poison. But no one seemed to take it seriously. Boys will be boys, they said. But she knew this wasn't just a childish crush. Then he started following her home, always at a safe distance, always silent, his footsteps echoing behind her on the empty sidewalk. A constant presence, a silent reminder that she was never truly alone. The terror knotted in her throat, but when she told the teachers, she was met with indifference. "He just likes you," they said. But she knew it was so much more than that. Things escalated when she found her diary sitting open on her school desk. her private thoughts exposed, read by someone who had no right to them. The horror became unbearable. That night, when she peeked out her window, she saw a dark figure standing across the street. He wasn't moving. He was just watching. That was the moment she realized she wasn't safe, not at school, not at home, nowhere. The school did nothing. The adults ignored the warnings. And the stalker? He never stopped. For years he remained nearby, lurking, waiting. The fear never left her. It grew, changed, and became a monster that followed her forever. Possessive girlfriend. At first, everything seemed perfect. She was intense, passionate, devoted, the kind of girlfriend most people would want. But something was off. Something he didn't notice until it was too late. Love turned into obsession. Every second apart fed her fear of losing him. The feeling of suffocation grew, and he began to realize he wasn't just dating a person. He was being haunted by something that refused to let go. The messages never stopped. If he took too long to reply, she would call. Once, twice, 10 times in a row. And not just phone calls. Video calls, demanding to see where he was, who he was with. Terror set in when he realized she always knew his location, even when he hadn't shared it. She was inside his life, watching his every move. Then came the unexpected visits. She showed up everywhere. At work, at his friends' houses, at a restaurant where he was with his family. The suspense built as her presence became inescapable. When he tried to break up with her, she cried, begged, threatened. But he knew he had to get out before things became dangerous. The problem? It already was. One night, he woke up to a noise. A soft, barely there sound. The faint creak of something moving inside his apartment. Fear seized his body before he even sat up. He grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and with trembling hands pointed it toward the hallway. His closet door was slightly open. And then he saw it. She was inside, crouching, holding a knife, smiling. The police arrived quickly. He never found out how she got in, but he knew the nightmare wasn't over. Fear doesn't disappear when you turn off the lights. And even after she was taken away, he never slept the same way again. Because people like that don't just give up. They come back. Non-stop harassment. At first, they were just innocent messages. A good morning here, a what are you up to there? But soon, the notifications multiplied. 10 messages in an hour, then 20, then 50. If she took too long to respond, the text became insistent, desperate. The fear slowly crept in, an invisible weight pressing down on her shoulders. It wasn't just annoying anymore. It was stalking. Then came the calls. 10, 15, 20 a day. Sometimes he wouldn't even say anything, just breathing, as if he wanted her to feel his presence on the other end. The suspense became unbearable. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed. A missed call. Another, and another. The terror sank deep into her chest. Every noise in the dark felt like a warning that he was too close. Then, he started showing up in person. At the coffee shop, at the gym, standing across the street, watching. He wanted her to know that he was there. The fear grew sharper, tightening around her like an iron grip. He wanted to be seen. He wanted her to understand that escape wasn't an option. She blocked his number, changed her routine. But it didn't stop. One day, she found a small package left at her front door, a tiny, neatly wrapped box with a red ribbon. Inside, there was only one thing, a picture of her sleeping. Her blood ran cold. He had been inside her house. The fear, once just a shadow in the background, became something tangible, something alive. The police got involved. A restraining order was issued. But she knew that wasn't a guarantee. He was still out there. He knew where she lived, where she worked. And worst of all, he knew exactly how to make sure she never forgot him. Breaking and entering. Fear had already become part of her routine when she realized her privacy had been invaded. At first, they were small things, a window that seemed slightly open, objects out of place, that creeping feeling that someone had been there. But when she found a gift left on her doorstep, she knew the threat was real. He wasn't just watching. He was inside. The first gift was a box of chocolates. Then, a necklace she had never seen before. Small gestures that might seem romantic from the outside, but to her, they were terrifying reminders that her home was no longer safe. The suspense built with each new gift left in the same spot, like a signature, like he was saying, "I was here." She reinforced the locks, installed cameras, but nothing could have prepared her for that night. A faint scratching noise at the door jolted her awake. Her heart pounded. The doorknob slowly turned. She froze, her breath shallow. The bedroom door creaked, as if someone was testing whether it was unlocked. Then, silence. Fear became paralyzing. She didn't know if he was still inside or if he had already left. When she finally gathered the courage to check the security cameras on her phone, her blood ran ice cold. The footage showed a man standing at her bedroom door, motionless, watching. The recording lasted minutes, but for her it felt like an eternity. The police were called. By the time they arrived, he was gone. No fingerprints, no forced entry, nothing. Only the chilling certainty that he would return. A restraining order was issued, but she knew that papers wouldn't stop monsters from acting. He had already crossed the line from distance to presence. Now the terror lived inside her home. Fear isn't random. It's a warning. These stories prove that real horror doesn't come from monsters or ghosts. It comes from people. What starts as admiration can become a nightmare that never ends, and when you realize it, it's often too late. Have you ever noticed someone watching you a little too closely? Have you ever felt like someone was following you but brushed it off as paranoia? How many times have you ignored small signs before things got worse? Protecting yourself isn't paranoia. It's survival. If these stories made you think, share in the comments. Have you ever had a stalker experience? The more we talk about this, the more people can protect themselves, because ignoring the signs could cost you. And if you want to keep learning about the dangers lurking closer than you think, subscribe and turn on notifications. Not all stalkers hide in the shadows. Some are standing right in front of you.